So anyways, coming up next, we have a couple that's going to share the importance of how to eat to live. Coming up right here on Give Life, Save Life Radio.
We have enough love between us, make no mistake. We have enough love between us to start to reawake. We have enough love between us to change and understand. We have enough love between us to respect our fellow man. Let us treat each other as we all are one. When we love completely, everyone is one. We have enough love between us for peace upon the land. We have enough love between us to help where we can. We have enough love between us for peace and harmony. We're all on this planet, nowhere else to go. We can heal and make it real if you want to know. We have enough love between us to practice every day. We have enough love between us, choosing love in every way. We have enough love between us for peace and harmony. We have enough love between us. There's no enemy. We have enough love between us, make no mistake. We have enough love between us to start to reawake. We have enough love between us to change and understand. We have enough love between us to respect our fellow man.
89.5 FM, KPOO, Give Life, Save Life Radio. Brother Keith, the sounds of Dr. Joe Bledsoe and the Source of Life. And we got them here in the studio today. Got to get my breath. I had a little episode here, so forgive me. Got a little tangled up behind here. So we'll be speaking with Dr. Joe and Mother Nasir in a few minutes. And we'll talk more about the music side of this wonderful project that's been out for a while, but we'll talk more about that. Valerie B have some great statistics on veganism. Talk to us, Valerie B.
And then I'm sure that Mother Nasira and Dr. Joe will expound on that. This is just some research that I did, but you two are the experts, so we can talk more about it. But some experts on vegetarians claim that veganism is a form of vegetarianism. While vegetarianism is considered a diet, veganism is considered a lifestyle. Some vegetarians avoid meat, fish, and poultry, while some do consume dairy products, while vegans only eat plant-based foods and avoid meat, fish, poultry, honey, and dairy products. Vegans also avoid all animal products and also avoid inedible animal-based products like leather, silk, and wool. There's been an increase of African Americans turning to vegetarianism and or veganism due to our predisposed genes and unhealthy lifestyles, the food that we eat, which puts us at risk for lots of diseases, high blood pressure, hypertension, diabetes, and certain cancers. So right now, many African Americans are going towards vegetarianism and or veganism. Something also interesting, I found out that a lot of African Americans are also lactose intolerant, which could also explain why some are vegans rather than vegetarians. And then here are some interesting some facts too. There's different types of vegetarianism, and as I talked with Dr. Joe earlier, he can explain a little more about it. But some that I picked up were the lactose vegetarians, which eat dairy products but don't eat eggs. And then there's the ovo vegetarians that eat eggs and not dairy products. So I'm sure you guys can explain that. That's kind of like a conundrum. I don't know. I don't understand it. And then according to blacksgoingvegan.com, in 2013, it stated that out of 1 million people, 79% of vegans are females, while 21% of vegans are males. Also, of 7.3 million worldwide, 59% of vegetarians are females and 47 males. And finally, Food for the Soul states that 6% of African Americans are vegetarians or vegans, while 3% of whites are vegetarians or vegans. And then some of the pros and cons of vegetarianism versus veganism. I don't even know if that's the right term to use, but it says that veganism is very restrictive because the essential protein and irons that is mainly found in meat, fish, and some other products can be sourced in other ways. However, vitamin B12, which is rich in animal products, is harder for vegans to obtain. The lack of vitamin B12 can lead to fatigue, nervousness, weakness, and depression. We also found some stuff out about omega-3s and the omega-6, but also the omega-3, which is an essential fatty acid found mainly in fish, poses also a deficiency for some vegans. So I'm sure that the two of you would be glad to just chime in and dispel some of this stuff or agree with it.
And I'm glad that they're here this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Valerie B, for just the research that you've done and always do. This couple is the authors of Spicy, Tasty Vegan Cuisine, an informative health guide of the melanated people of color. Welcome, Mother Nasira and Dr. Joe. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, good afternoon. We're just pleased to be here. Before we get into maybe clarifying some of those things or also validating them, first of all, we just like to give you a background on why we're here and what the books are all about. Mama Nasira and I, we have different stories to get to the same point, but the bottom line was being people of color, black people, our relatives, our friends, our loved ones having heart attacks, strokes, diarrhea, constipation, insanity, and a lot of this was related to the food. And not to throw any stones at anyone because it's basically we just were not aware. So Mama Nasira and I, we set out to inform our people and others about challenges and things to avoid and to help you to a wonderful life.
Yes, and my experience is somewhat different in terms of I changed my diet over a period of 40 years because I had an incident working in the medical field at UC Medical Center as a medical lab tech, and one day drawing blood from a patient, and she bumped me and I stuck myself with the needle and contracted hepatitis B. And that was my knowledge to knowing that food is so important that you must know what you put inside of your body. And through a number of blood tests, the doctor said that I needed to eat the way my mother raised me, and that's what I did. So I spent a lot of years going to the health food stores and asking questions, and I was vegetarian, plant-based, because I had to leave the meat, the acids, and I didn't know these words. It's just I'm still learning, as we all are. But I had to more or less just eat the food that's less acid.
Okay. So real quickly, just share as you went down the journey and having to immediately, well, you said you were a vegetarian, right? And this was one of my questions that came up when I first met you guys is like, wow, this whole lifestyle is totally different. I wouldn't mind trying it. And the response was, well, brother, you can't just jump in and become a vegan. And this explained to us, how can we get close to that process?
Yes, we have a chapter in our book. It's called Transitioning. So basically what you do is just write down the things you know you should not be putting in your body, and you just substitute them with a healthy alternative. Now, your motivation is, of course, you're going to start to feel better. You're going to start to look better. You're going to be cleaning out. And you'll find that you'll get to your list, and as your list grows of things that you no longer need, they'll be replaced with the healthy alternatives.
That was a question I was going to ask the two of you. You know, for some people, do you just jump into either choosing that you're going to be a vegetarian or vegan, or is it a process? You know, so did you start off once you had your incident and you had to change your lifestyle?
Yeah, well, what I did, because I grew up cooking, and I started cooking with my mother more so that I could learn how to cook, you know, the greens, the cornbread, the peas and beans, and so forth. And this was really a nice start. However, I did connect with Africans. I was working with them. I learned the different stews, and there was still meat there. But I included more vegetables in my diet, and spices became really important in my diet. Learning about the spices that we grew up with, which was the cinnamon and the nutmeg and the allspice. And then we had those combination spices, you know, the salt, the laurel, seasoning salts. And then I just gone from there and started connecting with Indian students too. And I learned about turmeric and cardamom.
Turmeric is very, very good.
Oh, yes. It's so good that I was using it for years and didn't know the benefits. And to learn that it reduces inflammation and also pain. It's for stomach aches, and
doesn't it help your eyesight?
It helps your eyes. It helps with cancer, your kidneys. I drink a glass of, my husband and I, every night or every other night. We have a glass of turmeric before we go to bed. And when we exercise, there are times we may overdo it, and muscle soreness, that increases it.
I have just a question. When you all said that you have a ritual, before you go to bed, you drink a glass of it. I heard that baking soda, does that have some healing properties too? Some people say that they drink, I mean, it may not taste as good, but, you know, drink some baking soda with water in the morning or once a day.
Yeah, it helps to alkaline, just like lemon juice does when you put it in the water.
I love lemons.
And that's another subject we can talk about, water, and I'd like to get to that before this is over, because your food can be no better than the water that you use to prepare it.
That makes so much sense.
Yes, it does. We had a guest on last Thursday, Chef Chauncey, and of course we gave him a plug today in reference to his 5-course West African meals, and he spoke about palm oil. And I just want to dive into that real quickly. And in your book, it's highlighted as far as coconut oil. And Dr. Joe, just educate us on the importance of the coconut oil versus a regular olive oil.
Well, generally, oil that benefits our bodies are from places where our DNA originates. And highly melanated people, we're talking about people of color, we're best served with coconut oil. And the coconut trees are grown in tropical areas and places that get very warm and hot. And these are the places of our ancestors. So oils that originate from these places are best for us. Now, coconut oil, I call it the oil that wears a cape, because there are so many benefits to coconut oil. Coconut oil in and of itself, you can use it for both high heat and also low, so it doesn't get rancid like some of the others. And just observing that over a third of the world depends on coconut for its food. And the populations that eat coconut are some of the healthiest people on the planet. We're talking about saturated fats. And you can also use it in baking, like just one-on-one, in terms of substitution. And it helps to boost the metabolism. And if your metabolism is boosted or revved up, then it's going to burn faster. You're going to have less disease. People that get sick are those that don't have a metabolism that's boosted up, that's going. So that's one of the benefits. And since the oil goes straight to your kidneys instead of going the long route, you get the energy in your body a lot faster. And it has amazing antiviral and bacterial properties. So it even helps to fight against things like herpes and what's the one, the candida. It's used for that.
Yeast
so
infection.
yeah, the yeast infections. So you cannot go wrong with coconut oil. And once again, in our book, we also talk about unrefined coconut oil, which is important. Because when you're looking at the oils, it's a lot to look at in terms of, is it being stepped on? Is it being processed? And one of the things that Mama Nasir and I have been parading is that a lot of our people have been damaged and are continuing to be damaged because they don't know about the vegetable oils that are posed as healthy stuff. And when I say vegetable oils, we're talking about those polyunsaturated oils like canola, soy, safflower oil, all of those clear-looking oils. Now, since they are vegetable oils, they have omega fats in them. And when you heat up that oil, as you do in refining, those omega fats turn rancid or spoiled. But you don't smell it because in the processing, they put in deodorizers and other stuff. But in the end result is when it gets in your body, it translates to more inflammation, pus, and mucus.
Wow. Let's talk about the omegas, as you also had mentioned in your book, the omega-3s and 6s. Educate us on the importance of them both.
Okay, well, they're called essential fatty acids because it's essential that we get them outside of our body. So we have to go outside and eat them to take them in. Now, traditionally, when people think about omega-3s and omega-6s, they look at the traditional route, and that is that a lot of omega-3s, let's start with omega-6s. Omega-6s, a lot of people get that from fish, from meat, oils, and omega-3s are basically some of them get from eating fish. And I say the reason I hesitate is because as a vegan vegetarian, it's very clear that if you're looking at 3s, you get them from vegetables. We're talking about all those Brussels sprouts, the salads. You get it there.
The
The
dandelions.
And if you're talking about your
Cauliflower.
6s, you're looking in terms of like your nuts, your seeds.
Your grains.
So you get plenty of them being a vegan vegetarian. Now, what I did like is that you started talking about what vegetarians are or the different labels. And frankly, I'll tell you, sister, I was confused myself.
Yeah, I'm like, because these were just a few. You know, I said, well, I'm gonna let you guys talk about that. But
Well, basically, it's about 5 of them. And when I say about, you have that semi-vegetarian. This is someone who's just cutting back on their intake of meat in general.
so is that like one of the pre-stages when we're talking about?
Yes.
Do you just jump into it, or it's a
Yeah,
phase?
this can be a
Right.
phase where they're starting off. You have a pollo vegetarian. This is one that avoids red meat and fish, but eats chicken, pollo. Then you can have a pesto pollo. This one avoids red meat, but eats fish. And then, the one I found interesting, the lacto-ovo vegetarian. This excludes meat, fish, and poultry, but includes dairy products and eggs.
It's
And you'll
right
find
there.
most of this type in the United States, Canada, and Western Europe. And lacto-ovo vegetarians eat fish like cheese, ice cream, yogurt, milk, eggs, as well as foods that have those ingredients. Now, being a vegan is a lifestyle. So it's not just a diet alone. You're going to avoid eating or using all animal products, including the meat, the fish, the dairy, the eggs, and any
And honey.
and any products that are containing these ingredients.
Wow. I mean, I wouldn't have considered honey as one of
Right.
the foods or the byproducts that you guys would avoid.
Yeah,
Because
well,
it just seems honey's so natural and it's, supposed to be so good for you. And
Well, it does come from the body of an
Animal.
insect, and also you have to be concerned at times where the bee is going
environment.
to make the honey. So if you have an
What is it
environment,
pollinated?
yes, that's not up to par, well, the honey is going to be suspect.
And especially with like the pesticides and all the stuff that they're using to grow our what we call food now. So that makes sense.
Now, what I wanted to point out is that acid is something that we people, melanated people, should avoid. Now, acid is the opposite of the other.
It's opposite of the omega-3.
Yeah, we're talking about either you're going to have food that's going to be acid that you don't require, or it's going to be alkaline. Now, your alkalines are going to be your fruit, vegetable, your grains, your nuts, seeds, legumes. Now, anything acid is going to be your white flour, your white sugar, your white salt, alcohol, and all animal products.
Is that because of the
Including meat.
refining or
Well,
because
it's
it's not
just
raw?
the way our body is made. We are supposed to take in alkaline things, not acid.
So is that what causes our body to break down? Like
Yes,
the
sir.
diseases?
That's
Yes, it
what
does.
causes the inflammation, the mucus, and the pus. And when we talk about animal protein, we're talking about the milk, the cheese, the yogurt, and the dairy. In order for your body to actually take that in and assimilate it, there's an exchange. Your body has to exchange nutrients. In other words, if it doesn't have anything in it, then your body has to use substances from itself. So if you're taking in animal protein, your body is going to have to take calcium from your very bones in order to neutralize that acid. If it did not neutralize that acid, it would go to your liver or your kidneys, and you'd have to cancel Christmas. But the challenge there is, over a period of time, even though you as a melanated person, we're talking about physiological differences now, your bones, generally speaking, are 10 times stronger or more denser than the Europeans. That means your hemoglobin, your T cell count, your white cell count is going to be different. Europeans have more sulfur in their body. That's why when they get wet, they give off the smell. They have more ammonia salt in their body. That's why they can go outside in cold weather with short pants on, and we can't. But yet, when you and I go to most medical professionals, ask yourself, which standard do they use to evaluate you or dispense medication? Do they use the standard for melanated people like us, or do they use a European standard? And if that has been the way it has been historically, you can see where it has resulted in a lot of, shall we say, challenges.
Brother, you are preaching to us. That is powerful. Just right there, that's very powerful. Dr. Joe and Mama Nasira are the book authors of Spicy Tasty. This is the second book, by the way. You also mentioned in the book, brother, how it is so important to forgive and how that combats against the physical. Talk to us about that.
Well, forgiving, you cannot really heal unless you forgive. And in forgiving, it's important because when you don't forgive, just like with any thoughts, they affect you on a cellular level. So what Mama Nasir and I did, we set out steps for forgiveness. Now, you may have your own, but ours is basically, it's just 3 simple steps. Number 1, we'd like for you to write down all of the things you felt that you could have did that you did not do this life. And then forgive yourself. Because you were doing the best that you could at that time with your level of understanding, awareness, knowingness, and willingness or ability to change. Second of all, write down all the names of the people you think that did you any wrong or harm and what you think they did. And forgive them. because they were doing the best they could at that time of either doing or not doing based on their level of consciousness, which means their awareness, their knowingness, and their willingness to change. And also, you'll find that it's, as I found, I have wrongfully accused people of doing things when I found out it was someone else. An example, a brother I thought had worn a new shirt of mine and broke off the button only to find out it was someone else. Or recently, my wife and I discovered that someone we thought had taken something from our house was not the person, but their daughter.
Recently.
Wow, yeah.
And thirdly is to forgive yourself again. Because everything that has happened in your life, you've played a part in. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I had an experience this week with 2 incidents where someone had taken something from me, and I knew I left it there, and they said they did not. So I had to just take a deep breath and say, it's not that serious. Let me not argue the matter. And I'm thinking it's a good thing, because there was a time that I would try to challenge them on that. And I said, no, it's not worth it.
Right.
You know?
Pick and choose.
Yeah, we have to make those adjustments.
Okay, so our total healing is going to take place when we don't have any judgment.
We had a conversation the other day, brother, and matter of fact, I was studying the CD, and we got to the conversation on what's already in us that just needs to be activated. Wisdom, love, peace, all of the above.
Right.
It's already in us.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't a light bulb experience. It was just a confirmation for me to go to a place of growth.
Yes.
You have, and you know what I'm leading up to, the chapter of men are slow, women are fast.
Okay, now before I go into most men are slow, I'd like for Mama Nasira to give her perspective on that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I raised 3 sons, and of course their father was in their lives. However, because I actually helped raise my mother's last 3 children, well, being single and free, going to college for 7 years, I was ready to have sons. I didn't want any daughters. And I wanted to teach them how to be really sensitive to the female. And it wasn't easy, because that means I had to sometimes be a little challenging. However, they're not really slow, they're different. And I think it depends on how the mom, presents herself to them in their lives, like making sure they learn as much as they can, so that they can be able to function with a female.
That's powerful.
Now, by most men being slow, I believe that it's karmic. Either something you did or didn't do in a past life or lives. That's why it appears to me that the average man, and I say average because I have to, of course, point out that the brother here is an exceptional brother and he's above the average. But most average men are slow. And what I mean by slow, it's an attitude that I characterize as unaware, unconscious, and disconnected from an appreciation of the values of others' perspectives. Because most men are not even aware that they're slow. And some are so slow that they think they're fast, because it takes roughly about 50 years before the average man begins to mature. And as you can see, this may have caused some problems, because by the time they're 50, they may have challenges in their body and in their social life, because over the years they probably did not listen to someone, usually a woman, that told them to do or not to do. And because some men arrogantly feel that a woman can't tell them anything. Now, added to this, along with the fact that we're told about Santa Claus, the Easter egg bunny laying chocolate eggs, and God being a white man, we have to get over the other big story, and that is man is superior to woman. Well, it's clear to me that most men can carry something heavy and maybe run or walk with it for a short distance. But that's about where the superiority ends. Women possess a more efficient and powerful immune system, so they have a greater immunity against infection and faster recovery time. And as you can notice, there are more women 100 and over than there are men. So there are more widowers than widowers. And a woman's body weight is about 25% fat compared to a man's 14. So perhaps this is why women are better insulated against the cold and can endure cold weather on a general basis better than men. Fewer women have hardening of the arteries than men. More men have incidents of stomach ulcers, baldness, and gout than women. Women can adjust their blood pressure quicker than men. And they have a higher pain threshold. And they can bear more pain than men without that complaining. Now, you can imagine what this world would be if we men had to bear children or endure
Right.
menstrual cramps, okay?
That's so
And
powerful,
the female brain, relative to overall size, is 1/4 heavier than a male's. They have finer texture and more complex organization than that of a male's. And they have more nerve endings in the frontal lobe. And this regulates the higher brain functions such as language, judgment, and planning. So this might shed some light on why some men don't ask directions when they're lost. And also why women can speak foreign language quicker and more efficiently, can out-talk men, and they plan ahead better than most of us. And women have a larger thyroid gland than men. So that's why a girl at the age of 7 has a brain capacity that a boy doesn't get until he's past puberty because of these high levels of thyroid-rich hormones. And at high altitudes like the Andes, where there's 18% less oxygen, I'll tell you, women can carry heavier loads than men, and they can survive better than men. And that's because they have a capacity for more oxygen than men. And we could go on with the heart attacks and the strokes. We can talk about the multitasking. We could talk about the intuitiveness. We can talk about the rates of suicides and the babies, boys being miscarried more than women's and not living past their first year. I mean, the list grows. And with all of that in mind, I think men should look at women a little differently. First of all, I'd like to say on behalf of all men, we're thankful for you putting up with this because it's not easy dealing with someone who's slower than you are. And for all the men, I say, look, strive to be the best you can this life. Don't lie, don't steal, don't cheat, don't even litter, because you can come back as a slower man or worse.
Brother, I do
That is so powerful.
agree and touch and agree with you in this growth period at the age of 50 myself. And you've poured into me and just reconfirmed what I want and where I'm going and where I'm at. I thank you so much for sharing that. In conclusion, Mother, just talk to the sisters and pour some encouraging words into our sisters.
Well, I think for the sisters, since we are women that really need to learn to prepare meals for yourself. And that's what I did when I lived by myself for 7 years before I married. So when I met the right man at that particular time for myself, he saw me cooking. So therefore, he was interested and he supported, the food. And any relationship, friends, I'm always cooking and preparing. And it's just good family values.
And as you did for us today, listeners, by the way, they brought us, just explain and
A
share.
feast that we can't wait to dig into.
Oh,
Is it the stew? Talk to us.
Yes, I have the African stew, and this particular stew has all of the roots and the vegetables from the farmer's market that's in season today. And I wanted to make a large part of it, and I have all the turnips, mustard greens, the roots, Napa cabbage, all the spices like cardamom, caraway seeds, turmeric, cumin, and it's just basil. It just goes on.
And you're getting me hungry.
And all of the
Because-
vegetables that's in there is in the salad as well.
Okay, so can we get this recipe in the book? Talk to us.
Yes. And if you're interested in the book, it's spicytastyvegan.com, or you can go on to Amazon. Facebook presence is facebook.com/spicytastyvegan. The books, as well as coming next month, we are going to make a presence at the San Francisco Public Library. It's on our website. February 6th, we'll be at the Bayview San Francisco Public Library, as well as on the 20th of February at the Western Edition.
Oh, okay. It's
San
right in our
Francisco
backyard, folks. It's
So,
right in our
yes.
backyard. So you got choices, either the Bayview or over here in Fillmore. Thank you so much for joining us. Any closing comments,
Yes,
Doctor?
I just want to say, with water is so important, and my wife and I are distributors of Multi-Pure. We've gone through a lot of them. We have a chapter in our book. We have a chapter on the microwave. We have lots of things that are here for you to just read, understand, and avoid the pitfalls. We have 3 books. We wrote a second one because for the general public, because some of these things were so important. We didn't want to leave out our fellow man or woman who has less melanin. But we want to thank you for inviting us. And once again, hit our website, talk to us, have any questions. We're here to help you, because unless we work together, we won't see the next step. And I see that step beyond and beyond that. So
There
thank
it
you.
is. Thank you so much
That's
for
wonderful.
joining
I hope
us.
that we'll have you all back again, because I know there's so much more
I mean,
that
it's open
we can talk
invitation.
about, and questions that I
Most
had.
definitely.
So that's
open
wonderful.
invitation. And I was just informed our next program that's coming right after us, the guest has a vegan. So stay tuned. And it's no coincidence. It's no coincidence. Until next week, peace and blessings.
Whatever you do comes back to you. So watch the things you say and do. Do unto others in a loving way. Watch the things you do and say. Whatever you do is multiplied. It's coming back to you. No way.